On the agenda tonight, we're going back to last year. We're going to be taking a look at Ayron Jones, and he's going to be performing My Love Remains. Hello, Phil here from Wings of Pegasus, and welcome to another analysis video. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. So, this is one of those performances that is right up my street, and I don't even know how long this performance is because I've just been watching it. I've watched it 3 or 4 times now from beginning to end because Ayron is one of those players that I can really get into, being a Hendrix fan myself, but also his vocal. But let me not spoil it for you. We will get Ayron and his band up on screen, and let's see how he gets on. Apologize if I've ever made you cry. I'm sorry if I broke your heart. With my selfish lies. Somewhere down that road, we lost our way. So even though you're not long gone, there's still one thing left to say. Perfect guy. I tried. Or if I ever called you out your name at any time. My love remains. My love. I'm just going to jump in here. As always, there's going to be a link to this performance in the description below, so you guys can click on that link if you want to watch it the whole way through without me interrupting it. But there is so much in this performance, and you can tell straight away that there is a lot of Hendrix influence in here, and such a Little Wing vibe about this song, which I absolutely love. And I am going to bust out the guitar. We'll go through a few bits here or there, but let me just mention about Ayron's vocal, because I'm a big fan of guitar players who also sing. It is one of those extra things that it's just like a cherry on top when you get a fantastic guitarist, lead guitarist, and then they've got a great voice as well, and Ayron definitely fits into that category. He's just got an insane voice, this soul, the emotion that's in there, the rasp. When he just leans into it, you can hear that cry in his voice when he just pushes his chest voice, but he's got great technique in there as well. So vocally, it's just on such a high level, but then also with the guitar playing. So we're busting out the Performer Series Strat. I'm going through the Fender Mustang amp as well. We're on the neck pickup, so we've got most of what we need. Now it's just trying to get into this playing, because it's not going to be an instructional video as always, but we're going to go through roughly what's going on, the way that we're piecing together these chords with the fills. So I'm going to have a quick listen to the intro again, and then we'll have a rough go through what Ayron's doing. So we're starting in C, and we've got this. And there might be a little jump up there, and it's really cool. We're adding in these ninths at the top end of the guitar on the high E string, and then getting back down to our minor 7th chord here. But in terms of the technique we've got going on with the C, I'll rewind it. I think actually the first time that we go up to the A minor and still that add 9 chord, and he leaves the high E string and the B string open. And then the second time I think we get a variation of it. But let's have another little listen to it, and because this is part of a lot longer video, then obviously rewinding it is a little bit difficult to go into the right place, but I'll try and find it. Like I said, if you want to watch the whole interview and discussion beforehand, then the link's in the description below, but let's just listen to this first part again. And even that little variation we have with this straight up into our fill and little double hammer on there, and these exaggerated downstrokes that we get, just arpeggiating the chord, getting to hear those strings really cleanly. Such a cool sound we've got here. Great tone, of course. And he does get a little bit heavier when we get into the choruses. So listen out for when he just flicks on that little bit of distortion. I just moved it forward a little bit so that we can hear the transition from the intro into the verse where the vocal comes in. Because listen to the way that Ayron then just takes down his playing on the guitar, still throwing in a few fills, but he's now leaving space for that vocal over the top rather than playing with this kind of dynamic, being more aggressive with it in the intro, but then he just pulls it back. So let's have a look.
Baby, I apologize if I've ever made you cry.
See there, just in the background with that minor 7th. It's now just a downstroke, really light upstroke, and let's hear what happens with the F. You can hear how softly he's playing now without... really light. You can hopefully hear with my pick the way that it's just caressing the strings rather than in the intro we had this... kind of like that, a lot more aggressive with that right hand.
I'm sorry if I broke your heart. With my selfish lies.
And he might even be using a little bit of the second finger on that right hand when he's coming up to this and up to to the G, or see that little flick with that right hand, which will give you a really soft sound. He might be just using the fleshy part of his finger there into that. You can hear how subtle that is, but I think I spotted that. It's obviously difficult to see because I've got my mouse in the way and we can see the playback bar getting in the way, but it did look like maybe it's something you can look out for on that right hand. A little flick with that second finger. He might even have a little drag upwards across those strings rather than using the pick to get a softer sound because of the fleshy finger hitting the strings rather than the aggressiveness of the pick. I can already tell this is one of those videos, because it's right up my street, we could go on for years explaining what's going on here, but with our C shape here, if you're sliding up on that A string, that's what you want to be doing to get into your pentatonic shape 1, and that's the major pentatonic shape here because we're in C major, but we've got this. And it's all about getting your bar in place with your first finger and striking more than one string. As we come down, you can hear that I'm hitting 2 strings at a time. So in terms of playing the fill that Ayron's doing here, we actually have a pick on that C. You can hear how I'm hitting those 2 together, the A string and the D, and you need to leave enough space underneath your third finger to get that to ring out, like that. And there's so much in here playing wise, getting a little bit more aggressive with the pick, there, and then lighten up a little bit. And that little, you want to make sure that your thumb's over the top here to supply your root note. And then little add 9 at the top there. And he does vary the way that he plays this. Maybe with a pull off as well, just exaggerating the downstroke. So then once you got that out, there's this little octave run up, I think, on 3rd fret, 4th fret, 5th fret with the thumb. Keep your third finger in place as well, which then gets you into the either the add 9 there or the add 9 there, high E string open, B string open as well. Really nice sounding chord. Down to your F with the add 9 at the top. Even throw in a little hammer on and pull off in there, just a really cool sound here. I've just moved it on a little bit from where we were so we can hear the transition from the verse into the chorus, and this is the second verse into the second chorus, because we can hear Ayron just turn on his distortion, flick that on in the pre-chorus. You'll hear that difference in tone, but also listen out for the change with the drums, the fact that we've just got throughout the verses that rim shot on the snare, as we can see really close in the picture here, but then as soon as we start building into that chorus, we're then just fully open dynamically and we get into the center of that snare. So let's have a little listen.
What's your name at any time? My love remains. My love remains. My love remains.
So you hear how open we are now. It's almost from when I was playing in the verse, I've taken the amount of gain off my guitar by just turning down the volume or really taking off a lot of that distortion. This is something that if you've been playing guitar for a little while, you'll know, but if not, if you've got quite a dirty tone and you want to take a little bit of that edge off to get it cleaner, just roll off your volume until you find that sweet spot. But when we then get into the pre-chorus, you'll hear that change from there to a lot more distortion. This is done through a pedal. He's not doing this on the guitar. So once we get into that, There's a little fill in there, and I think that was it. Really cool stuff. Little slide up into the F, same thing. And then we're going back into the C. But you can hear how more aggressive it is in the chorus. That's the point. You want to build dynamics into your performance. And let me just mention about this being a 3-piece and the fact that we get such a great sound, and that the rhythm section has got to be solid in order for Ayron's lead to sit on top of that. If they weren't solid, it just wouldn't work. It's so important to have in any band. So we are going to jump back into the video. Just before we do, the mid-late that we're just into, or the bridge as it's also called, is the D minor, 3, 4, just stabbing those chords in there, just 4 on each. And you can hear the delay on my amp that I've just dialed in order to try and get it relatively similar to what Ayron's got here. But the D minor into the A minor, and that might be an A minor or an A minor 7th. I can't remember, but as soon as we start the video, we'll be able to hear it. But that 1, 2, 3, 4, D minor again, 2, 3, 4 into the C. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's an extra little fill in there, and D minor, 2, 3, 4 into a G. And I think that's it. I think there might be a little bit of a build up there. As I said, I've seen this video probably 3 or 4 times. So yeah, in my memory banks, I think there's a build up on the G. But let's get into it, because then we have a solo.
I didn't mean to cause you pain, and I'm wishing I could turn back time and forget your name. Forget your name.
And there we have it. What a great performance that was. And with the lead solo, we will jump into that. Something to point out about that lead solo is the fact that you can just see that he switches on his Crybaby wah-wah pedal there. Sadly, my Crybaby is out of action at the moment, so it means that I won't be able to do the wah-wah, that changeover halfway through the solo. But it's one of those things that just separating the solo up into straight playing and then having that wah-wah on there is going to make it interesting, having those two halves of the solo. So let's just jump into the solo and listen out for the attitude that we've got coming through the strings here from Ayron.
Forget your name.
So straight away we've got this some really aggressive playing, really cool stuff. I might just rewind that just to have a quick listen to that again. Okay, so we've got this a little line in there that was the bend. I went the first time, and that's where the bend happens that time. Let me just take it back. We'll have another little listen to that.
Forget your name.
Yeah. Working our way down. Oh. Okay, we're working down to the lower octave here, I think. Yeah. So again, it's these little picks and just delaying your hammer-ons like that. And it's a great way to make your playing just a little bit more interesting rather than just playing straight notes all the time. And that's also the same principle for when we're playing the fills of picking and then hammering on. So pick, hammer on, pick, hammer on, pick, hammer on, pick, hammer on. Kind of like that. So you start to get the idea of how this is pieced together, but that classic Hendrix sound of that technique, picking and then hammering on instantly into your fill shape. Let's have a listen to some more. So we've got this. Exactly the same kind of line, but the same expression the whole way through. And that little slide up there. And really cool vibrato as well. And this that little slide up we had before with that second finger, third finger on the B string and the G string, that little fill that came in, I think, the second chorus when we saw it, but now implementing it into the lead work, so you get a little bit of a reference point to that second chorus with that fill that we had in it, but now it's just touching base with these familiar locations that we've had previously in the song, but now putting it in the solo. Really cool stuff. Okay, and now we're working our way up to, oh no. We've got this classic kind of blues line in there. I'm going to take that back a little bit so we can hear it a little bit more clearly, but the important thing here is to know that we've now moved up to our C position, higher up the fretboard rather than 3rd fret. We're going to be moving up here, and it means that we're on our 8th fret with our pentatonic shape 1, and there's that little, just hammer on to that major just to keep it a little bit more relevant, but we do go minor for a little bit there, of course. But that little hammer on brings it back to the C major, because we're in C major here. But like I said, classic blues, just blending that major and minor. Yeah, yeah. Got a little tweak there. I'm not sure if it goes to that bend. Okay, so getting aggressive now. So, it's keeping that same kind of feel throughout the whole solo. It really attacks it in the beginning and just maintains it the whole way through. Okay, so now we've got these, and there's a little run up to that. And these are just double stops here, just playing a couple of strings at a time and just playing notes here. And I think he goes a little bit higher than that, up the fretboard, coming back down. Going down again. If you want to go all the way through all of your potential options there, you can go all the way up and down that high E string and B string. But this is what, I mean, Ayron's applying that. A lot of strumming in there, just keeping those two strings ringing out. Now at this point, he's now turned on his Crybaby, and you have to just apply pressure to it to then click it to start it up, so that now the wah-wah pedal obviously is going to be accentuating the high end of the frequencies and also taking those frequencies out, and that's why you get that wah-wah sound. So when you push down on the pedal, you get the wah because it's opening up the sound, it's really exposing the top end, which is why we're now getting feedback. Because Ayron, when he clicks it on, the thing about the Crybaby pedal and pretty much every wah-wah pedal out there is that you have to apply pressure to it to click it on, and it's got a little click underneath it that then switches it on, but you need to apply your whole body weight pretty much to it in order to get it to start and click on. So it means that by default your wah-wah pedal is going to be in its fully open position when you turn it on. So this is why we get feedback, because the wah-wah pedal has been clicked on, and therefore it's now exaggerating the top end of the guitar. And if you're exaggerating the top end of anything, you start to get feedback if it's too loud. And this is a really loud tone we've got going on here, or at least a really loud performance by the sounds of it, but the fact that the tone's really distorted as well, there's a lot of attitude in there. So this is why we get feedback to begin with, but then as soon as Ayron starts playing notes, that kind of takes over the feedback and he can get into his wah-wah playing. So now when we get right up to the top of the guitar, this is where you can hear the bends coming in. I think his high E string goes out of tune at this point, because when we're, get the volume in there, playing these bends really high up on that high E string, I think what might have happened is that Ayron has changed his strings before playing, which I always advise people doing so that they don't break a string live. But then you want to make sure that you play the strings in. I do it a day before, so then I spend a few hours the day before just playing in the strings, or not even that long, just to make sure that all of your bends that you're going to be doing can be taken by the strings and that they go back to where they were. And here, it might be the fact that Ayron's playing with new strings, so that when he's getting up here and doing these crazy bends on that high E string, when he comes back down into his rhythm, and you can hear how my high E string is still okay, even with those bends, just because these strings are actually really old, but they've been played in for quite a long time. And at the end of this performance, if you want to watch the video, link in the description below, you'll see afterwards that he said he was thinking about stopping the performance and saying we'll do it again because of that high E string that he could hear was ever so slightly out. But then before he does the next song, he then retunes that high E string. And it's something that when you are playing something that's really involved, as this is, you don't really have too much time to edit it on the fly, but that is something that Ayron would be able to do as well, because he can hear that that high E string has now gone a little bit flat, so he could just, you've seen Jimi Hendrix do it, and lots of other players lean over and just tighten up that high E string in order to make it in key. But let's just finish off the solo. And then hear the dynamic change as we get back into the guitar. He takes that distortion off the sound, and we're back into the C and really understated playing. So just the end of that solo, again, we came down to our C major position. And we've got the wah-wah sound on there, so it will sound slightly different, but... And that, and just playing around with that shape. Obviously you can do that all night if you want to, but a really cool performance here, and one of those that I could be breaking down for years, just because I love this kind of playing, but also Ayron's voice, the way that he's got so much emotion in there. And just the lead work, breaking off into lead guitar. This is the kind of thing that you don't just pick up the guitar and start playing like this. It takes a hell of a lot of practice. If you're looking to get into your fill shapes, this is the kind of thing that is really good practice to play your C and getting used to those bars and like that. As you can see there, make sure that you bring that first finger over to the A string after you've made your slide up. Like that, really subtle movement there. I tend to move it as I'm going up. I'm barring 4 strings here, the E, the B, the G and the D. So it'll sound like that if you've got nothing else on there, but you only want to really be hitting 2 strings at a time. Maybe 3 if you're feeling really confident with your right hand in terms of covering that distance and not going as high as the high E string, because yeah, that'll start to make it sound a little bit dodgy because you get that 6th chord sound, which is yeah, not what you want here. But when you get into that here, as I'm moving down, you can see my first finger moves to now bar the A string and the D string, so that once you've got that, you get those 2 together. Then into your chord. And you probably want to be simplifying your chord here rather than getting the full chord. Because you've got your little finger on the high E string, it means that if you're playing the full chord, you'll get your 7th in there. And I don't think we can hear the 7th here, so it'll be a case of placing that 3rd finger on your D string to get that sound, and just muting the A string by either touching it with your first finger or your thumb, which which will now give you a more authentic sounding G chord with the add 9 up at the top, and then take it off back to that G. Before that, little slide up that we have, exactly the same. But now take off your second finger because we're in a minor chord. But thank you guys so much for requesting this video for me to take a look at. Keep the suggestions coming in the comments below. If you did enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. And I'll see you guys at the next one. Rock!